Good morning, everyone, and happy, thankful Thursday. Hope everyone is great this morning and ready to enjoy some gratitude time. So let's take a deep breath in, long exhale out. Today, we're going to review a couple of the gratitude practices that we've been trying over the last several weeks. And if you recall, we looked early on at this Modeh, this morning Jewish prayer that says, I offer thanks to you, living and eternal King, for you have mercifully restored my soul within me. Your faithfulness is great. I told the story about the rabbi, that beloved rabbi that the students didn't see at the breakfast hall, and they didn't see him in class in the morning, and they worried about him. So they went up to where he was staying and they knocked on the door, and they came in and he was sitting up in bed with wonder on his face. And they said, Rabbi, are you okay? And he said, this morning, like every morning, I awoke and immediately said the prayer upon arising. I thank you, eternal King. And then I stopped as the words hit me. I thank God. I thank God. Students, do you realize what a privilege it is to commune with the Almighty? And that's what we've been doing every single morning, is communing with the Almighty. Enjoy this. How beautiful is that? What a way to start off the day in gratitude. Put our focus in the right direction and with each other and with this community. So we're going to review a couple of the gratitude strategies or practices that we've gone through over the last 14 weeks. And as a point of refreshing, just bring it back to our minds. So we've just talked about straight up gratitude, why there are benefits, the health benefits of gratitude, and why that's such a good practice. And to count your blessings. You know, you could do it in a journal, you could do it in a notebook. It is helpful to write it down, to physically write it down. So whether you have a gratitude journal or whatever, I think I put a worksheet in one of the sessions that I can attach today as well. We talked about the morning prayer, the Modeh, and then we talked about people who make you better. Who's somebody in this world who has made you a better person? And then the challenge there was to express your gratitude in writing and ideally read that letter to the person. And I expressed mine to Tom Petriano. And that was a great thing. And I had the blessing of receiving a phone call like that from Anne. So thank you, Anne, for that. Then we talked about gratitude for nature. You know, what are some of the things in nature that just blow your mind and you're in wonder when you see them? And we asked people to take pictures, and I had no idea the talent among these people with your photography skills, but also like the places that you get to see. I know Angel posted these wonders. I'm like, where were you? And she said, like, in my neighborhood. So that's an amazing thing. Then we talked about the strategy of mental subtraction of positive events. Mental subtraction of positive events is when you imagine, what if I didn't have this? Or what if I couldn't do this? And this pandemic created a perfect opportunity for us to experience the mental subtraction of positive events. In fact, we just didn't mentally subtract them. We did subtract them. And then we talked about what you get to. What do you get to do? and to be focused on that. So now, as things are opening up, you get to go to a lacrosse game. As odd as it is, we went to one last night. We're in the tailgate of our car watching through the fence because that's the rules. But we got to see Grace play lacrosse. That was an awesome thing. So what are some of the things that you get to do now? What were things that you got to do in quarantine that you may get to do again? Who knows? So I think that that's a helpful thing for us to remember. And then there's the great practice of savoring. We talked one session just exclusively about savoring, like being in the moment, like enjoying the taste of something or the sight of something. Maybe when you're out in nature, just like zoning in on that petal and that flower, or just feeling that fresh air, or seeing, the dogs or the birds or the other people or whatever. And there's something in that practice, that's called hedonic adaptation. Hedonic adaptation is that the first bite is the best bite. And then, as the bag gets emptier and emptier, we kind of lose sight of here it is. Hedonic adaptation. So how to combat that is to give it up, which means when you're enjoying something, take a break, give it up, come back to it. So that's good for us to practice now that we're released out into the world again safely, to still practice this art of savoring and being in the moment and indulging and just really being so grateful. Then we talked about, this was during Ramadan, Sabr and Shakur, which are Arabic words that mean patience and gratitude. And in their practice, it says 2 halves of faith, this perfect philosophy for life and introspection. So that whole gratitude and being patient with things. We talked about gratitude for setbacks and challenges, like things that have happened in life that have really been painful and hard to overcome, and almost just really hard to remember when you think back at those times. And maybe some of those times were the past 14 weeks, likely they were. But for us to say, how did that make me better? How has that informed me of my own strength, grit, resilience, adaptation, and how can I be grateful for that setback or that challenge or that brick wall that I kept running into because it made me stronger? So they're grateful for the setbacks. Then we gave gratitude for curiosity and wonder, right? And we talked about how curiosity is even more powerful than bravery. It's that openness. And we talked all about just like seeking curiosity and looking for things. And we talked about gratitude for strengths, your talents, your abilities, your experiences, like how you are you and how awesome that is. And then how do we put that into action, right? We talked a bit about that this week, about putting things into action. So how can you take stock in what you've got, the gifts that you've been given, and how can you use those for good? Then we gave gratitude for laughter. And the homework was to give thanks for people who make you laugh, to make people laugh, and to practice yes and. And I really trust and hope everybody has been looking for opportunities to accept and build. Yes and. How do you take what you've been given and add to it? So we're in a pandemic, and we have pandemic prayer. And then when we were going through that day, we shared this Ecclesiastes quote, which is a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance. So I do trust that in this time ahead, everybody makes time for dancing. Get out there and feel freedom and let your body move. And then this Luke scripture we read back then was, blessed are you who hunger now, for you will be satisfied. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh. So just to know, remember we talked about the bookshelf and how there's great events in life and there's tragic, hard, difficult, challenging, sad times in life, but they're books on the same bookshelf. It's the yes and, like, yes, things can be challenging and things can also be awesome. So how can we embrace that complexity and beauty in life? And at that same time, we were talking about reminders of gratitude. How can we be like in the moment? How can we wake up out of our trance that we're in sometimes to be grateful? And I was sharing that 11:11 is a gratitude time for me. So whatever those triggers are for you, or maybe you just put artwork all over your house like I do. Like gratitude changes everything. And Karen gave me this. How great was she yesterday? Thank you for joining us, Aunt Karen. You are the best. That tape is cracking me up. I don't know how I could ever listen to that again, unless maybe I get an old clunker car with a cassette tape player. Vinyl came back, but I'm pretty sure tapes aren't coming back. Then we gave gratitude for lives lost. We are mourning the many lives that had been lost. That was triggered by George Floyd's departure, his death, and we reviewed all of these lives that have been lost, and then we've been collecting them. That was on June 10th, so anytime that we've lost a life since then, I've added to that date, and I sure hope that list can be complete at this point. Then we gave thanks for civil rights leaders. Remember we talked about the inoubliable, which is the unforgettable people who were so paramount in the civil rights movement, and we celebrated some of those folks like Baynard Rustin, and we've been adding to that list too as we're watching documentaries and learning more about our history. On June 10th in Facebook, just adding notes. So as you learn about awesome people, including yourself, who are making a difference, let me know. We'll just keep that list going. So that's a list I hope we keep growing. And then we gave gratitude for challenges, and we said we would stamp it with joy. We're going to stamp things with joy. So now, no matter what the circumstance, we're going to stamp things with joy. I think that's awesome. So here's a couple new thoughts. I know those are old thoughts, things that we have been focusing on. And I'm just trying to see. I wrote down a couple of them. I want to make sure I remember. But here's some new ones. Something that we could all think about here is, Dear God, I want to take a minute not to ask for anything, but simply to say thank you for all I have. Please never let me forget to be grateful for the things I have and patient for the things I don't. I mean, that's something that I would wish for all of us, that we continually give thanks. And when something awesome happens in your life, when you get an unexpected blessing, when you get an answered prayer, when you just get one of those moments of joy that you didn't deserve, it just happened, I think it's fun to just look up and say, that was you, God. I call them God winks. It's like something happens and you're like, yeah, I know you're behind the scenes on that one. And then, we've talked a lot about this First Thessalonians scripture verse, which is rejoice always, pray without ceasing, in everything give thanks. In everything give thanks. I mean, if there's an operative word in there, it's everything. The setbacks, the strengths, the savoring, the nature, the people who made you better, the people who challenge you and make you have to think about how you're going to get through this, right? I think it's important for us to give thanks for everything. And to look at this one too, the gratitude is a choice. We talked a lot in pandemic prayer about choice. And that I give thanks to you, O Lord. Just give thanks, right? Choose gratitude. Choose gratitude, just like you choose love, right? We know that it's straight from scripture, that give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good. His mercy endureth forever. His mercy lives forever. I mean, man. And if we could really try to get people talking about gratitude, maybe that's our challenge this week, as we say, how can we make gratitude part of our vernacular, part of how we just live our daily lives, that we just always give thanks with our whole hearts. We give our whole hearts into it, and we look around for things that have made us better and make this life so exciting and uncertain and wonderful. So I do want to give thanks for all of our guests. We've had some amazing guests. We've had Tony Sundermeyer. He started us off, the brave first. Then we had James Lecce. Then we had Caleb Gang, Tanya Cornelius, our very own Tanya, Tom Petriano, Tracy Davidson, Jonathan Miller, John Frost, Father Kevin McDonald, Tony Murphy, Greg Klimovich, Ann Hatfield, Don Lincoln, Karen Nolan, and tomorrow we have Jabari Whitehead. Do not miss it. He is an angel walking the earth. I'm grateful that we have the fruit of the Spirit within us, that we have peace, self-control, kindness, love, gentleness, patience, goodness, faithfulness, joy. Man, that's a chock full of strength, isn't it? And I'm grateful for every one of you. And I started a list, and I realized there's so many people who join us after hours, and I don't want to unintentionally leave anyone out. So I just want to say thank you to each of you. Thank you for being parts of this community, essential pieces of this community. I forever will be grateful to you. And I want to just thank you for your part on my journey. You have played a significant role in my life, and I'm forever grateful. So be blessed, be thankful. When you think of things you're grateful for, another tip is to think about the part you played in that. Like, you might be grateful for this pandemic prayer group, but the part you played is that you showed up and you participated and you engaged and you shared your heart with us. Right? You might be grateful for the home you live in, or the dog you're raising, or the cat in your house. You selected that creature. You chose that place. You made that your home. So when we find our part in the things that we're grateful for, that gives us agency, and it reminds us that yes, indeed, we have a choice. Be grateful, be blessed. I'll see you tomorrow.